this is a complete winner.
Nice. You can smell the aroma from over here. That looks fab.
Hi everyone and welcome back to the Pumpkin Ale Retrospective. In this lesson we are going to re-evaluate the pumpkin ale. Absolutely delicious. We're going to look at the schedule, the vital statistics, the costs, the price per pint, and of course some lessons learned. Cheers! Well, as you can probably tell, I am loving this drink. This is the first time I've opened the litre bottle. It's not going to last long. I have been quaffing the bottles of this to replace my misery over the failed winter warmer. This one, on the other hand, has been a massive success and just has continued to deliver on the money. The colour remains exceptionally clear and also a lovely rosy tint to it. It does have a refreshing level of carbonation. And the aroma, it really does hit the spot. You can get that pumpkin spice feel to it, but it is solidly an ale. Absolutely wonderful. And of course, the taste continues to deliver. It's very smooth, even on the aftertaste, very smooth indeed. Incredibly quaffable. What ABV did this come in at? 5.5, that's not too bad. If I'm going to drink it by the litre, it's a good job it's only 5.5. Yes, this is very, very shareable, very, very drinkable. Highly recommended. It was one of the more complex brews that I've ever done. So I'm very pleased in how well it has turned out. Good health, everyone. Looking good. Moving on to the schedule, which was a little more complex than usual. We started a week early in order to roast that pumpkin and a fresh pumpkin that we used for that. We then moved into 21 days of fermentation, which was a big success, and then just had a single day in secondary while we just simply added some secondary additions, which was the vanilla essence. And then finally we moved into carbonation, which was 16 days at 15 degrees centigrade. We then popped it in the fridge to cool down for a further 9 days of conditioning, and that was at a slightly lower temperature of 7 degrees centigrade for a grand total of 47 days end to end. It is now a further 5 weeks later and we are still enjoying the last few bottles of the pumpkin ale. Vital statistics then, how did we do against plan? Well, we planned a brew house efficiency of 75% and did not achieve that. In hindsight, I'm not surprised, but this was all part of our calibration of the new equipment, so all is good. ABV then unfortunately just came in a little low, 5.5% against a target of 5.9. We just fell a little short post-boil, so we came in with an original gravity of 1.060 versus 1.063 and then a final gravity dead on target of 1.018. Go us! The IBUs on this are pretty low and that comes to the smoothness. It has a lovely malty ale and not bitter at all taste to it. A very full mouthfeel, good flavour. Recommend. EBC is apparently 32. Okay. and carbonation was more at the medium end, 4.7 grams per litre of priming sugar. And yes, it is not overly carbonated like a lager, it is actually very nicely carbonated. Good result. Vital statistics then, actually we came pretty close, despite some calibration issues with the new equipment. All was good. Cost then, how cost effective was this little brew? Now oddly enough, this breaks down into fairly even quadrants with water, fermentables, yeast and other additions all breaking down to sort of roughly a quarter each. It's the hops that are interesting. They came in at a tiny proportion of the overall costs, which is quite interesting. The Northern Brewer is one that's popped up quite a lot recently, and while there isn't a huge hoppy or bitterness to this particular brew, it does offer a little balance in the final taste. Northern Brewer will be coming up again soon in a future planned brew. Water is my personal choice to use bottled water, but that does mean the cost comes out a little higher than typical. But it did only account for £8.70, with fermentables coming in actually at the highest end of the range at £13.61. Yeast was of course my first foray into a liquid yeast, which was very effective indeed. Lovely end result with that. So money well spent at £13.95, probably the most I've ever spent on yeast for this particular homebrew. And then we have all of those wonderful additions. So let me just remind myself, we had pumpkin, we had cinnamon powder, we had ginger root, we had nutmeg, and we had some vanilla essence. End result, delicious. I can't say I can pull out any of those individual components, but the overall impact is what matters. It is a wonderful, full and complete beer. All in all then, this was probably one of my most expensive brews of the entire year, £48.64. But that is somewhat offset by the larger volume. We had 13 litres in the bottle. Well, hey, there's not 13 litres anymore. This has also made a wonderful Christmas present. I hope they all enjoy it as much as I do. Which gives us a price per pint of £2.13. This wonderful 1 litre, now very nearly empty, bottle came in at £3.74. My wonderful 500ml glass, which is one of these, comes in at £1.87, and the old 330ml, which I don't think I had any of these for this, was £1.23. Crackingly good value, if I do say so myself. That is half the price of a production brew and twice the result. Before I drink too much of this, I'd better move on swiftly to the lessons learned. Lesson number 1, fresh pumpkin, delicious, enough said. Lesson number 2 was all the new things I tried during this brew. What could have possibly gone wrong? Well, fortunately nothing particularly went wrong, but these are a list of all the things I tried. This was more calibration for the digiboil, the inclusion of a pump for temperature control, the biggest brew day ever at 30 litres of water and 19 litres in the fermenter, using a big fermenter for the first time. Thank you, Jason. The first time I've added fruit. Yes, pumpkin is a fruit. To the boil, and the first time I've used liquid yeast. There was definitely plenty of opportunity for this one to go south. It didn't. Lesson number 3 was using the pump for circulation. This was a lesson from my previous brew and worked wonderfully successfully. Fortunately, I had it from my previous equipment and just simply plugging it in worked. Rock on. Lesson number 4, which I will definitely apply to the next recipe. So here's my notes on this. 19 litres, that was too much. Downsized to 17 litres on the day, that was also too much. Next target recipe, go for 15 litres in the fermenter. So that is my reminder to myself that I probably tried to cram too much in, but it was a bit chaotic. I think I remember putting on my glove to be able to pull out the grain basket because it was submerged. This is why homebrewing is so much fun. Lesson number 5. Raw pumpkin 2.5 kilograms, but roast pumpkin was about 1 kilogram. So which measurement should I have used? The answer is I used the right measure. 2.5 kilograms raw was correct because this flavour is wonderful. I think if you were to add more pumpkin, it would not improve the flavour. No, I'm happy. Lesson number 6, no surprises to anybody. This was a big brew. It was indeed, and the heater did kick in and out throughout the brew to maintain the temperature, which meant I also did a little bit of stirring to help make sure we maintain that mash temperature. Lesson number 7 is a question mark about rice hulls. I did not include rice hulls in this recipe, but draining was very slow, and I do think that is one of the good reasons for including rice hulls, and I will do so in the future. So rice hulls are probably a good addition for this kit. Lesson number 8, Brewfather calcs. Brewfather likely included the sugar added at the start of the boil into the pre-boil calculation for fermentables. And I'm guessing, but the refractometer reading 15 minutes before the end of the boil came in very low. And the reason for that is because the sugar was added during the boil. But I do think Brewfather included it in the pre-boil calculation. Lesson number 9 is the power settings on the DigiBoil system, and I did experiment with this a little bit on the day, so the power was probably a little high, but the boil off rates I'd set were for that higher power level, so I stuck with it. In the future I now have a plan for the next brew to use a slightly lower power setting and a slightly lower boil off rate and see where that takes me. The boil setting as was a little extra vigorous, so next time it's 500 watts. Lesson number 10 is the temperature setting, which in the previous brew had been all over the place, and the addition of the pump helped to circulate and make sure we levelled out the temperature throughout. But I think beyond that, the temperature was a little bit more stable in this brew, and that may have been due to the larger volume. Lesson number 11 is cooling, which did cause me a bit of a problem because I am still massively underpowered for the size of the system that I have now. Next time I need another chiller, or what I'm actually going to do is introduce ice water into the chiller during the next cooling. We'll see how that goes. Check that one out in the future. Lesson number 12 is my leaky chiller. I didn't fix it last time, so this time I threw the connection away and replaced it with a new one. Hopefully this will not be a lesson in the next brew. Lesson number 13, this was a bit of fun. I'm gonna need a bigger siphon, so I bought one. Great fun. Lesson number 14, I was caught off guard by this one because this is an ale I expected the temperature to be a bit higher for fermentation, but it did turn out that liquid yeast does need a cooler temperature for fermentation. Hence I ended up moving it into the garage, but I hadn't expected the need to do that. Fortunately I did this in the autumn. This is a pumpkin ale, Halloween, all that sort of stuff, so it was a little bit cooler. Lesson number 15, and you will be very pleased to know I am going to stop warbling on, and this is the final lesson. The OG was 3 gravity points too low, but the volume was spot on. So this does come back to fine-tuning those Brewfather settings, which now I can do with the additional information from this homebrew. That iterative approach to adjusting settings will get us closer to the Brewfather settings, driving out exactly what we experience on brew day. It'd be a shame to waste it. This is the end of my litre. Good health, everybody. This is so good. Assuming you haven't reached a comatose state after listening to all of those lessons learned, then congratulations! Thank you for watching. Please do like and subscribe. Feel free to comment. Good health, happy home brewing. Cheers, everyone. That is the Halloween Pumpkin Ale in the bag, and for chronological accuracy, so is the pear cider, and the winter warmer is still causing me all sorts of problems. Keep a lookout for the outtakes from this video, and coming up we have a spiced up Christmas turbo cider.